Good morning. I want to welcome you to our fifth webinar in a series on the high quality pre-kindergarten components. This is presented by the Texas Education Agency. My name is Tamala Olsby and I am part of the Early Childhood Education Division. The topic for today's webinar is writing a family engagement plan. And we are very thankful that you have chosen to join us today. Today we're going to cover the following topics: the importance of the foundational years. We will review the high-quality pre-kindergarten component of family engagement. Most of our time will be spent on the subject of how to write a family engagement plan. And we will also discuss some available resources to support your high-quality efforts. Now, while we are going through the webinar, we anticipate that you may have some questions. At the end of the webinar, we will give you information on how to submit your questions. And the questions may be used as part of our existing frequently asked questions document. So let's begin by discussing the foundational years. Those are defined as pre-kindergarten through third grade. And I'm going to make the assumption that all who work in the education field have the same goal. We all want to help children to have a successful school experience that leads to high school graduation or being college and career ready. And that goal begins in the early years. We know that children who participate in a high-quality pre-kindergarten program become kindergarten ready. And when a student is kindergarten ready, they are more likely to master, not just pass reading and math in the third grade. Mastery of reading and math in the third grade is an important benchmark that leads to high school graduation. From the very moment a child is born, they begin developing the skills they will need to learn to read. And until third grade, our education system is focused on teaching a child to read. But at fourth grade, children stop learning to read and they begin reading to learn. Therefore, it is very important that all of our third grade students are proficient at reading. Research from the Annie Casey Foundation tells us that 75% of students who are poor readers in the third grade will remain poor readers in high school. So if our students miss that third grade reading benchmark, it is very difficult for them to ever catch up. The best way to close that achievement gap is to never let it open in the first place. And that is why there is such a focus on the early years, the foundational years, on building quality in our pre-kindergarten programs in Texas. Look at these statistics. The benefit of a high-quality pre-kindergarten program include an 85% increase in print awareness, a 19% decreased need for special education services. Children are 24% less likely to be convicted of juvenile crime. They are 20% more likely to graduate on time from high school. They are 19% more likely to attend college, and they earn $150,000 more over their adulthood. Research has documented the impact that a high-quality pre-kindergarten experience can have on a young child. especially if that child is economically disadvantaged or is an English language learner. The importance of these early learning years cannot be overemphasized enough. The emphasis here is giving all children access to a high-quality pre-kindergarten program. This research that's shown on the slide says children from low-income homes in particular benefit from preschool education in comparison with their peers from high-income homes. However, the magnitude of the benefits depends on the quality of the program. I'm going to read that again. The magnitude of the benefits depends on the quality of the program. On average, due to the prevalence of low-quality preschool programs, preschool in the United States narrows the achievement gap by perhaps only 5%, rather than the 30 to 50% that research suggests might be possible on a large scale if all preschool programs were of higher quality. Here is the list of high-quality pre-kindergarten components that have been the focus of Texas's efforts in increasing quality in our pre-kindergarten programs across the state. This list should not be considered all-inclusive, but those high-quality components include curriculum, student progress monitoring, teacher qualifications and professional development, teacher-to-child ratio, family engagement, program evaluation, and data reporting. And please note, according to the Writer 78, implementing all of these high-quality components is an expectation for every LEA, including charter schools, using FSP funds to operate a pre-kindergarten program. Our focus today will be on family engagement and specifically on how to write a family engagement plan. There is much research that ties family engagement to positive child outcomes. This research comes from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Education. They report that strong family engagement in early childhood systems and programs is central, not supplemental, to promoting children's healthy intellectual, physical, and social emotional development, preparing children for school, and supporting academic achievement in elementary school and beyond. Research from the National Parent-Teacher Association says that the most accurate predictor of student achievement in school are not family income or social status, but the extent to which the family creates a home environment that encourages learning, communicates high yet reasonable expectations for the child's achievement, and becomes involved in the child's education at school. That is a strong piece of research. Let's be reminded, every family dreams that their children will grow up to be successful students at school, just like every teacher dreams that their students will be successful as well. Positive child outcomes is a collaborative goal for both families and schools. A school's ability to engage families in supporting their children's education is not an extracurricular activity. It lies at the heart of educating a young child. We should probably begin our discussion today about family engagement by defining some terms. So, what is family engagement? It is the mutual responsibility of families, schools, and communities to build relationships to support student learning and achievement, family well-being, and the continuous learning and development of children, families, and educators. Family engagement is fully integrated in the child's education experience, supports the whole child, and is both culturally responsive and linguistically appropriate. For this presentation, we will use the following definition for a family. A family is the adults responsible for the child's care and children in the child's life who support the early learning and development of the child. The expectations of Writer 78 in regards to family engagement are the following. A school district or an open enrollment charter school shall develop, implement, and make available on the district, charter, or campus website a family engagement plan to assist the district in achieving and maintaining high levels of family involvement and positive family attitudes toward education. Here is a graphic representation of what we just read. So it is expected that districts and charters will do 3 things to reach the goal of achieving and maintaining the high levels of family involvement and positive family attitudes toward education. Those 3 things are to develop a family engagement plan, to implement a family engagement plan, and to make that plan available on the web. So let's turn our attention to writing the family engagement plan. So who should be involved? Well, that is a local decision. TEA's recommendation is that the group that writes the family engagement plan has firsthand experience with working with families and is familiar with the district's overall mission and vision and with the pre-kindergarten program within that district. The group could include administrative staff, teaching staff, staff that work directly with parents, and the parents themselves. The group could also include members of the community that offer direct services to children and families. Often, districts and charters already have a written document that describes their approach to working with families of the students they serve. This is especially true if a district receives Title I funding. It might be possible to use that existing document as the family engagement plan if it contains the 6 expected components, and we're going to discuss those in just a minute, and if the activities listed in the document are implemented in the pre-kindergarten program. Often some of the other existing documents are written specifically for K to 6th grade. But if they are implemented with pre-kindergarten children, that also is a reason why the district and charter might be able to use that existing plan. And the last requirement would be that it is available on the web. So a district could use an existing plan if these three elements are true. This slide stipulates the 6 expected components of the Family Engagement Plan that are referenced in Rider 78. The Family Engagement Plan shall facilitate family-to-family support, establish a network of community resources, increase family participation in decision-making, equip family with tools to enhance and extend learning, develop staff skills and evidence-based practices that support families in meeting their children's learning benchmarks, and finally, evaluate family engagement efforts and use evaluations for continuous improvement. The majority of the written family engagement plan will be focused on these 6 events, activities, and practices that the district or charter conducts that aligns with these 6 components. Now you might be wondering, how did TEA come up with these 6 identified components of the Family Engagement Plan? Well, TEA worked with a 12-member work group for approximately 9 months to choose these 6 components. The work group used many resources, even some from other states, in the selection process, and those are all listed here on the slide. The Family Engagement Plan begins, like most documents, with an introductory paragraph. The introductory paragraph could describe the district and charter's overall approach to family engagement. The next section of the Family Engagement Plan should identify specific activities, events, or practices that the district or charter conducts that fit in to those 6 expected components. And the document would conclude with words that encourage parents and guardians to become engaged in their child's education. Please note, this is a possible outline. The document could be arranged in numerous ways, as long as the 6 expected components can be easily identified in the document. We are now going to go over each section of the Family Engagement Plan in more detail. So the introductory paragraph can articulate the district or charter's expectations that are placed on families. The questions listed here on this slide might be helpful in considering what the introductory paragraph could contain. The majority of the family engagement document is devoted to identifying activities, events, and practices that schools offer to encourage family participation. It is recommended that district and charters use their existing documents to identify these family engagement activities, events, and practices, and correlate those activities to the 6 components. I'm going to give you some examples here. In most school districts, you would find a school calendar. And in most school calendars, one could find family engagement activities, events, or practices that would fit these 4 components: facilitating family-to-family support, establishing a network of community resources, increasing family participation in decision making, and equipping families with tools to enhance and extend learning. Another document to consider is a district's staff professional development plans. In those professional development plans, one could find activities, events, and practices that would fit into this component: developing staff skills and evidence-based practices that support families in meeting their children's learning benchmarks. And lastly, charters and districts often have planning or continuous improvement documents. And those documents are a great resource for information on this last component, which is evaluating family engagement efforts and using evaluation for continuous improvement. So in short, the best approach in writing a family engagement plan is for districts and charters to use their existing documents to identify the activities, events, and practices that can be listed under all 6 components. We'll look now at each of the 6 components of the family engagement plan in a little more detail. The first family engagement component is facilitating family-to-family support. For this component, districts should ask themselves, what specific events or practices do we sponsor that offer families the opportunity to support each other? Again, the focus here is on equipping or facilitating families to support other families in the pre-kindergarten program. Common activities that correspond to this component could include providing a welcoming place for parents or guardians to informally meet. Of course, the place should contain items that would make any family feel comfortable. Having a meet and greet time during the first week of school gives families the opportunity to get to know one another. One might create a family directory or a phone tree. That would fit into this category as well. And hosting events that bring families together, such as family fun nights or open houses or even a carnival, would all fit into this component. As stated earlier, one of the best sources of information for this component would be on the school calendar. So in writing this section of the family engagement plan, one would name the component, facilitate family-to-family support. They would write a short description of that component, and then they would list the activities, the events, the practices that the district or charter offers that are associated with that component. The second family engagement component is establishing a network of community resources. Families often have needs, and they need assistance. Those needs, when they are not met, can negatively impact their children. School districts and charters often are just not able to meet all of the potential needs that a family might have, but they can collaborate with community agencies to bring those needed services to the parent. So, how can a district support families in finding the assistance in the community where they live? Some activities or practices that would fit into this component include providing flyers that give information on agencies within the community that focus on common needs of families. It's important probably to mention here that those written resources should be available in the home languages of the families that are being served. Some districts create a community resource handbook as a resource for parents. Having a different community agency visit the school campus once a month might be a good idea to give families the opportunity to interact with that agency in a more convenient manner. Even something as simple as assisting families in getting a library card would fit into this category. And again, one of the best sources of information for this component would be in the school calendar. So, in writing this section of the Family Engagement Plan, again, one would name the component, establish a network of community resources. They would write a short description of the component, and then they would list the activities, events, and practices that they offer that are associated with this component. The third family engagement component is increasing family participation in decision making. Families are empowered when they are active in the decisions that affect their child's education. And districts and charters can do this in a variety of ways. Some items to consider include developing a family advisory group, supporting leadership and advocacy skills, collaborating with families to solve their challenges, presenting opportunities to provide input and feedback, identifying families who can represent pre-kindergarten at various school functions, and inviting parents as participants in the development of district continuous improvement plans. If you need some more concrete examples of items that would fit into this category, I would recommend providing opportunities for a parent to sit on a specific advisory committee within the district, or allowing parents to participate in reviewing survey results or the plans for continuous improvement. Inviting parents to give their opinions on some of the educational activities done within the school year would fit into this category. Let's say they decide which field trips to take that year, or how to celebrate a special event at school. All of those examples would increase the family's participation in decision making. And one of the best sources of information in this component is the school calendar. So, again, in writing this section of the Family Engagement Plan, one would name the component, increase family participation in decision making, write a short description of that component, and then record the activities, events, and practices that are offered that are associated with that component. The fourth family engagement component is equipping families with tools to enhance or extend learning. Children learn best when the things that they are studying at school are supported at home. For example, when parents and guardians read to their children on a regular basis, children acquire the skills to read in a quicker fashion. Families often want to assist their children, but they just don't know how. And this is an area where effective school districts and charters can make a real difference, not only in the students' lives, but in the life of the family. Items to consider in this family engagement category include providing families with information related to age-appropriate developmental expectations, equipping families with resources and skills to create a home learning environment, encouraging family participation in the classroom, utilizing a parent bulletin board, promoting the use of family-friendly technology that supports home learning, and providing workshops that are focused on early childhood topics. Common activities or practices that fit into this category include conducting parent conferences several times during the year to discuss with the family the child's progress. Having a parent lending library where parents can check out items to use in their homes. Items could include books or games or puzzles. And of course, providing workshops is a very common activities that most schools provide. And again, one of the best sources of information on this component is the school calendar. So in writing this section of the family engagement plan, one would name the component, equip families with tools to enhance and extend learning. They would write a short description of that component, and then they would list the activities, the events, and the practices that are offered to families that are associated with this component. The fifth component is developing staff skills and evidence-based practices that support families in meeting their children's learning benchmarks. This component is focused on how well prepared are the pre-kindergarten teachers in supporting the families of the students in their class. It is recommended that school districts and charters include family engagement topics as part of the teacher's annual professional development activities. This slide shows many potential topics that might be a part of that professional development. A strength-based approach to family engagement. And I just have to mention here, it's really important that all professional development that is family engagement focused should be grounded in an approach that focuses on the strengths that families have. Professional ethics. So things like confidentiality, having appropriate boundaries with families are appropriate topics. Interaction with parents, including how to respond to families in culturally and linguistically appropriate ways. Respecting parenting practices, common responses to children's behavior, how culture relates to child rearing perspectives, supporting a family in crisis, and available community resources that support a family's needs. In this section of the Family Engagement Plan, districts and charters would identify how staff are prepared for supporting families. And one of the best sources of information for this component is the existing plans for the professional development of the pre-kindergarten teacher. So again, in writing this section of the Family Engagement Plan, one would name the component, developing staff skills and evidence-based practices that support families in meeting their children's learning benchmarks. One would write a short description of the component, and then one would record the activities, the events, and the practices that the district or charter offers their pre-kindergarten staff that is associated with this component. The last family engagement component is evaluating family engagement efforts and using evaluations for continuous improvement. Like many other facets of education, it is important to evaluate a district's current practices for their effectiveness. Items that would fit into this component include collaborative goal setting with parents or guardians, use of surveys, using existing data, incorporating family engagement into the district's existing improvement plans, and the use of research-based tools to assess the effectiveness of the family engagement. For this component, it is important that school districts and charters include how they evaluate their current family engagement activities, events, and practices. Part of that evaluation should include how are they achieving and maintaining high levels of family involvement? In other words, are the activities that are offered to families, are they attended? Are they well attended? And how is the district achieving and maintaining positive family attitudes toward education? The best source of information for this component is probably the district's planning and/or continuous improvement documents. And again, lastly, in writing this section of the family engagement plan, one would name the component, evaluate family engagement efforts, and use evaluations for continuous improvement. They would write a short description of the component and record the activities, the events, and the practices that the district or charter offers that are associated with this component. We are almost finished writing this family engagement plan. So the family engagement plan will need a concluding paragraph. So some items to consider here might be to review the priority that family engagement has in the overall mission or vision of the district or charter. Review the expectations that the district or charter has for each family and student. Emphasize the role of respectful and trustworthy collaboration between schools and families that lead to positive child outcomes, and encourage families to participate in the opportunities that will be available in the pre-kindergarten program. Let's be reminded of the expectations of Writer 78 in terms of writing the family engagement plan. A district or charter should have a written, implemented family engagement plan that is posted on the web. This plan should lead to achieving and maintaining high levels of family involvement and positive family attitudes toward education. The Family Engagement Plan is a document that it is expected to evolve from year to year. Districts and charters can add to or delete family engagement activities and/or practices on an annual basis based on their effectiveness or based on the identified needs of the families that are being served. In conclusion, it is important to look at the overall written family engagement plan as a whole? Are there items listed in each of the 6 expected components in the current plan? And note that it could be possible for an event or an activity or a practice to fit into more than one of the components. What if a current family engagement activity doesn't fit into any of the 6 components? Well, districts and charters are not limited to those 6 components. The family engagement plan should contain the 6 identified components to meet the writer expectations, but a family engagement plan may contain additional components. It is recommended that districts and charters also spend some time dreaming while they are reviewing their written family engagement plan. What family engagement activities could be added? How can the current events or practices be improved? Again, it is assumed that the family engagement plan will be reviewed at least annually. It may be helpful for districts and charters to use an evaluation tool that is known for their effectiveness in evaluating family engagement. And this slide and the next slide list several tools that TEA would recommend. You will notice the first recommended tool is our own high-quality pre-kindergarten self-assessment tool, and it has a section in it that is focused on family engagement. This next tool is from the Office of Head Start. And then there is listed here a tool from the Parent-Teacher Association and for the Center for the Study of Social Policies. Each of these tools are unique in their capacity, but they may be helpful in getting a different perspective about family engagement. In addition, TEA has developed a tool called the Quality Checklist Family Engagement Plan to help districts and charters assess their level of quality in regards to the written family engagement plan. Just a small portion of that plan is shown here. You can get the entire plan as a handout on this webinar, and it is also posted on our website. To use this tool, what you would do is you would read the quality measure, and then you would grade your proficiency in that measure. So let's do an example. The first quality measure says, the pre-kindergarten program has developed a written family engagement plan that guides the collaboration, interaction, and support of students' families. So if a district or charter had a written family engagement plan, they would then grade themselves. They would decide, are we proficient? Are we in progress? Or are we just beginning? And then there is space on the document to write some follow-up. We would encourage the use of this tool to assess where you are in regards to family engagement. And the tool can also be used to document your progress. This tool, like I said earlier, is posted on TEA's website and will be with this PowerPoint presentation and a recording of the webinar. As you can see, writing a family engagement plan can be an effective approach in achieving positive child outcomes. And we have learned today that the foundational years are important, and children with a high-quality pre-kindergarten experience have better outcomes. We've also learned that family engagement is very important and essential as a part of a high-quality pre-kindergarten program. If you have questions regarding how to write a family engagement plan or anything else that was covered in this webinar, please send them to the following email address: earlychildhood education@tea.texas.gov. A frequently asked questions document addressing all of the questions that are received by January 19th will be posted on TEA's website by the end of January. And of course, if your question just can't wait for that frequently asked questions document, please do not hesitate to contact the Early Childhood Education Division of the Texas Education Agency. We are here to help. Again, my name is Tamala Olsby, and my contact information is included on this slide. We sincerely hope that this webinar has been informative and helpful in your efforts to increase the quality of your pre-kindergarten program. Please be watching for an announcement regarding our next webinar in February titled Quality Family Engagement. Information will be forthcoming. We thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.